I've seen endless wonders that I barely could believe. I've seen all the stars in heaven staring back at me. I've seen a billion minds collide and stream into my eyes. As time rolls on, I won't let life leave me behind. Oh, let's sing out loud. It's all we know. Has been turned upside down. Everything is possible now. I've seen things my father said he'd never thought I'd see. I wonder what my kids will find to roll their eyes at me. I can see the future coming, and man, it's such a sight. But time will waste me if I don't stop wasting time. Oh, let's sing out loud. It's all we know. Has been turned upside down. Everything is possible now. Everything is possible now. Everything is possible now. There we go. Whoa, 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 I've seen all the prophets fall from pillars made of sand. I've seen the truth dragged through the mud and never heard again. I've seen the precious water flowing, stolen by the blind. You got yours now, you want all that's left of mine. Oh, let's sing out loud. It's all we know. Has been turned upside down. Everything is possible now. Everything is possible now. Everything is possible now. Everything is possible now. Everything is possible now.
I met a girl there in the bright side of a dream. Sweet Arizona, sweet as I had ever seen. Listening to Rolling Stones and rolling in the deep. La la la, la la la, la la la. Drove out to Malibu, got lost along the way. Wound up in Mexico and thought we'd never stay. Cold drinks and hot beaches, we danced the night away. La la la, la la la, la la la. Singing, take me home tonight. I need you in my arms to wake up and feel alive. Sweet Arizona, yeah, I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough, no, I just can't get enough of you. Sweet Arizona, sweet Arizona. Her hair was fire red like red rocks in the sun. Her eyes were stained glass like blue under the glacier runs. Nowhere we're going, still don't know where she came from. La la la, la la la, la la la. Singing, take me home tonight. I need you in my arms to wake up and feel alive. Sweet Arizona, yeah, I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough, no, I just can't get enough of you. Sweet Arizona, sweet Arizona, sweeter than California, sweeter than Tennessee, sweeter than Colorado, sweeter than Georgia peach. Started with conversation, now you're here next to me. 24/7 days of sweet. In Arizona, take me home tonight. I need you in my arms to wake up and feel alive. But I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. No, I just can't get enough of you. Sweet Arizona, take me home tonight. I need you in my arms to wake up and feel alive. Sweet Arizona, yeah, I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough, no, I just can't get enough of you. Sweet Arizona, sweet Arizona, sweet Arizona, sweet Arizona, sweet Arizona.
Early this morning, woke up holding my head, hearing my heartbeat all night long. Shades of this motel keeping me in bed, reading the news, just trying to stay strong. I need to just get up and take a deep breath, keep it together, 'cause it's a beautiful day. Sun on my face, feeling okay. Don't let it get away, it's a beautiful day. Feel so proud, screaming out loud. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. I used to feel sad, now I'm satisfied. I'd fall to pieces, now it's peace of mind. The words of my mother speak the truth. She always said, son, you'll make it through. I need to just get up and take a deep breath, keep it together, 'cause it's a beautiful day. Sun on my face, feeling okay. Don't let it get away, it's a beautiful day. Feel so proud, screaming out loud. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. I won't ever let it go. I won't let it get away. I won't ever let it go. I won't ever let it go. I won't let it get away. I won't ever let it go. It's a beautiful day. Sun on my face, feeling okay. Don't let it get away. It's a beautiful day. Feel so proud, screaming out loud. It's a beautiful day. Sun on my face, feeling okay. Don't let it get away. It's a beautiful day. Beautiful day. Feel so proud, screaming out loud. It's a beautiful day. Beautiful. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It's a beautiful day. And don't change your mind, honey, I'm on it. Do anything you want, but let the thoughts subside. And in my arms, honey, I got you. So don't worry about a thing and lay your head by mine tonight. Don't change your mind, honey, I'm on it. And I don't really care about the other guys. You're so fly, honey, I love it. You know I literally cannot get you out my mind. Oh no, 'cause I just wanna get you high. I mean, I just wanna make me yours. Come on, baby, I just wanna love you more. Oh no, I got a nervous feeling in my belly, I can seem to let it go. 'Cause I'm falling in love, and honey, I don't think I'll ever get up. 'Cause I know that you're the closest thing to heaven, dear, to me the earth has ever shown. I'm not letting you go, oh baby, never letting you go. 'Cause I just wanna get you high, I mean, I just wanna make me yours. And I don't wanna just get by, honey, never loved anyone like you before. Oh. Even though I know you're already going, oh, I don't wanna leave, I don't wanna leave it. I just wanna get you high on me. I just wanna make me yours. Yours. I just wanna get you high on me. I just wanna make me Oh, baby, I just wanna get you high. I just wanna get you high. Oh, and I know for sure. Come on, baby, I just wanna love you more. Come on, baby, I just wanna love you more. Don't change your mind on you. I've seen endless wonders that I barely could believe. I've seen all the stars in heaven staring back at me. I've seen a billion minds collide and stream into my eyes. As time rolls on, I won't let life leave me behind. Oh, let's drink out loud. It's all we know. Has been turned upside down. Everything is possible now. I've seen things my father said he'd never thought I'd see. I wonder what my kids will find to roll their eyes at me. I can see the future coming, and man, it's such a sight. But time will waste me if I don't stop wasting time. Oh, let's drink out loud. It's all we know. Has been turned upside down. Everything is possible now. Everything possible now. There we go. I've seen all the prophets fall from pillars made of sand. I've seen the truth dragged through the mud and never heard again. I've seen the precious water flowing, stolen by the blind. You got yours now, you want all that's left of mine. Let's sing out loud. 'Cause all we know has been turned upside down. Everything is possible now. Everything is possible now. Everything is possible now. Everything is possible now. Everything is possible now.
I met a girl there in the bright side of a dream. Sweet Arizona, sweet as I had ever seen. Listening to Rolling Stones and rolling in the deep. La la la, la la la, la la la. Drove out to Malibu, got lost along the way. Wound up in Mexico and thought we'd never stay. Cold drinks and hot beaches, we danced the night away. La la la, la la la, la la la. Singing, take me home tonight. I need you in my arms to wake up and feel alive. Sweet Arizona, yeah, I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough, no, I just can't get enough of you. Sweet Arizona, sweet Arizona. Her hair was fire red like red rocks in the sun. Her eyes were stained glass like blue under the glacier runs. Nowhere we're going, still don't know where she came from. La la la, la la la, la la la. Singing, take me home tonight. I need you in my arms to wake up and feel alive. Sweet Arizona, yeah, I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough, no, I just can't get enough of you. Sweet Arizona, sweet Arizona, sweeter than California, sweeter than Tennessee, sweeter than Colorado, sweeter than Georgia peach. Started with conversation, now you're here next to me. 24/7 days of sweet. In Arizona, take me home tonight. I need you in my arms to wake up and feel alive. But I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. No, I just can't get enough of you. Sweet Arizona, take me home tonight. I need you in my arms to wake up and feel alive. Sweet Arizona, yeah, I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough, no, I just can't get enough of you. Sweet Arizona, sweet Arizona, sweet Arizona, sweet Arizona, sweet Arizona.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining.
It's
10
a.m. sharp, and we would like to start
our Google Cloud and Workspace in Higher Education Customer Voices webinar. Hi, Alex.
Hi, good morning. Yes, we're really happy to have you everyone here. We will start in a couple of minutes. Our speakers are joining as we speak, and we're live streaming this here on YouTube.
Yeah, my name is Carsten Peters. We are from Digital Schooling, Google for Education partner across Europe. We have customers already in 10 countries, and we've been working closely with Google for, is it 3.5 years now, I think. And Alex.
Yeah, I'm Alex. I am based in Hamburg, and I'm with Google for 3.5 years, almost exactly as working with digital schooling together. I work in the field of higher education in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. And I'm really happy and glad to have the following speakers join today, which are Zvonko Stanković, who is a system administrator of Faculty of Media and Communications in Belgrade, who will speak today first, and who's already waiting to salute you. And then as a second speaker, we'll have Carel van Niekerk, who is a doctoral candidate and research scientist for artificial intelligent dialogue systems, and he is working at Heinrich-Heine-Universität Düsseldorf. And our third speaker will be Christian Rebernik. He is CEO and co-founder of the EdTech Tomorrow's Education. And Christian is also a known serial founder. He founded Vivi, a healthcare startup, and recently Tomorrow's Education, and was a CTO and managing director of the fintech N26. And last but not least, we have Ahmed Elnaggar, which is a research associate in the areas deep learning and machine learning at Technische Universität of Munich. And we're really happy to have everyone here presenting today. And yes, I will go over to Carsten, and Zvonko will start soon as well.
Yes, so all of these customers have used Google Workspace or Google Cloud Platform in many different ways, and we will just hear from them their success story and how they used the products, implemented the products, rolled out the products, deployed them in at their institution. Yes, let's start with Zvonko. I'll bring him in, and he can present himself as well. And I will also share his slides, which will come up at YouTube in a minute. There's usually a little delay between streaming to YouTube, so if the speaker speaks too fast, just bear with him and wait for the slide to appear. Zvonko.
Hi, Carsten. Hi, Alex. First,
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here with all other speakers. I'm, as you said, I'm system administrator at the Faculty of Media and Communications at, we are part of Singidunum University in Belgrade in Serbia. And we are using Google Cloud a lot, and we are one of the pioneers here in Serbia, and I will talk more about that in my presentation. First, let's talk something about us, who we are and where we are going. Our Faculty of Media and Communications existed from 2006, so this year we celebrate our 50th birthday. And we, by all marks of the students, we are one of the best private faculties in Serbia. At this moment, we have more than 3,000 active students. And we had a lot of different departments like journalism, communication, and two departments which we are also pioneers here in Serbia, I think in whole region, for digital arts and digital marketing. We were first in all, I think maybe in Southeastern Europe region that had that departments. Also we have psychology and social work departments. As I said before, we are one of the pioneers in implementing Google services in Balkan region, more than a decade. And also we're using other technologies. We also pioneering in using, I think with medicine faculty of University in Belgrade, Moodle LMS, learning management system from 2010. And even in 2014, we started with testing live streaming courses from a faculty, which is now, with this pandemic of COVID-19, will be standard in higher education. Because of all of this that I said, FMK was more than prepared when this crisis began. Now, I would like to talk about something about beginnings of using Google Apps for Education. It was called that in that time. Now, Google Workspace for Education. One of our professors was pioneer in implementing IT services on FMK on our Faculty of Media and Communications. He established IT department, and we began using Google Apps for Education in 2009, so we are using it for 12 years. At the beginning, we only have 500 users available, and in that time there was a limit 2,000 messages per domain. So there was, I found it when I preparing this presentation, some very interesting advices from Google experts that they said, we had a limit 2,000 messages per domain, so it will be good that your users only send messages one to another. So it's also how everything changed for 12 years now. In that moment, our IT department had only one employee. Now it has 3, and we had a very basic usage of Google Apps, only mail and chat services. Our users, and I mean professors, students, faculty, administration, used only mail and chat services at the beginning, and it was accepted excellent by younger employees and students. They accepted it very easily, usage of Google services. Of course, there were some expected problems with older generation, but it was for a very short time because they see all the benefits that come with it. And they also using it without problems very shortly. But very quickly, our users needed other functions that implemented in Google Apps, like Google Drive, Google Calendar, and etc. And then we started to using them also. So using Google tools during pandemic. Now, situation before this pandemic, from 2016, we started to use a lot more Google services other than mail and chat. We began to use Google Drive. Our e-library system is based on it. Also, on our Moodle learning management system, we're using it as a sharing platform. Also, our employees, either professors or administration, started to use Google Calendar a lot. It helps a lot in organization of everyday work. Also, as I said earlier, we tried to implement live course streaming. We even bought some streaming platform. It was called Webinar, but eventually we didn't use it at that time because it was too early for that technology at that time. But when this situation started with COVID-19 quarantine, we had to change our work methods. As we all know, in March last year, almost all governments closed up their citizens, and we couldn't have our classes live on the faculty. So we needed to go totally online. And as we are using Google Cloud technology, we choose Google Meet as our streaming platform. It was a very difficult task, but in only a few days, we went from live classes to online classes. It was very expeditious, especially because we're pioneering implementation of IT solutions in Serbian higher education. It was a big challenge because, as you know, in that moment, you couldn't go to your ISP and said, I want to have a faster internet because they only resolve emergencies if someone doesn't have internet or things like that. So we couldn't improve our network due to COVID-19 restrictions. Also, we needed to make easier for our professors, for our students, because they didn't use that before. So we needed to make a lot of online training for professors, create a lot of manuals, and to support almost every single online meeting in the first few meetings.
Yes. Sorry, Zvonko, to interrupt you. I think your slides are not advancing. Could you just unshare and share again? So,
Okay.
And then present the presentation. Maybe that's the reason.
Okay, now I'm sharing again. Now I'm sharing, but I didn't see anything.
Yeah, and please hit present. In I think you're using PowerPoint.
PowerPoint. Is it okay now?
It's not in present mode, but anyway, I would just add it to the screen.
It's okay now.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if it works.
Okay. Okay, we will go like this. As I said, we needed to make a lot of online training for professors, create a lot of manuals, and support almost every single online meeting. It was a difficult task, but we did it. This is how we use Google Meet, our FMK, our administration, professors, and students. Professors and students accepted Google Meet expeditiously. There were, of course, expected small problems with adaptation to a totally different way of teaching. But with massive IT department support and, of course, support of our other departments, our management, dean's office, and other departments, Faculty of Media and Communication became first higher education facility in Serbia that has all classes running only online through Google Meet platform. Even University in Belgrade, which is the biggest and greatest university here in Serbia and in whole Balkan area, and is one of the 600 best university in the world by Shanghai ranking, failed at it. Some faculties of the University of Belgrade even got mail only when COVID-19 crisis began. So our continuous work in newest IT solutions implementation paid off, especially in this kind of situation. And now I will tell you something about using Google Tools today and our plans for the future. Last September in 2020, we upgraded our Google Workspace for Education account to the Google Workspace for Education Plus package, especially for Google Meet package. We starting our professors, our students started to use collaborative tools like Google Forms and Google Sheets more often, and it also helped a lot in everyday work. We especially like that new Google Meet options that came, I think, also last September or October, like live streaming up to 100,000 users, recording in Say to Drive, digital whiteboarding, breakout rooms, polling, and QA. And especially attendance tracking, which is very, very needed for our professors. And that option especially delighted all of our teaching staff. Also, one of the new options like integration of Google Calendar with Google Meet is quintessential important for us, because saving a lot of time for professors to only put one link for whole semester, not to have to put a link, every link for every link for every calendar. Also, admin dashboard improvements helped a lot for IT department. We had a lot easier job with improvements. Also, we had a lot of new plans for school year. One of our plans is to put a camera in every classroom and streaming and recording with, of course, Google Meet, which also requires strengthening our network infrastructure, which is now in this process. So every class from our classes or on our faculty will be recorded and streaming, because this year we had some hybrid model. We had one third of the students will be live on the faculty, and others will be watching that live from Google Meet stream. And then every week other group came on the faculty. So we try to use Google Meet to make easier for our students and also for our professors. Now I want to show you some statistics, how we use Google tools, Google Cloud in our faculty. At this moment, this is a screenshot about a week ago. Number of users that using Google services and storage, we had almost 6,000 users. And we used almost 12 terabytes on Google Cloud storage. And you can see here a chart that shows how number of users at FMK using Google services through the years. So as I said earlier, we had in 2009 only 500 users, and then 2,000 users in 2012, and now almost in 2021 we had almost 6,000 users. Benefits using Google Cloud and FMK. We had using Google. We had excellent collaboration with Google Documents, reliable video conferencing through Google Meet, which is, as I said, quintessential for us. We couldn't do in this situation without excellent Google Meet options and integration of other Google tools with Google Meet. Also 24/7 access to all important files to Google Drive, great control for IT admins, very easy on all devices, even on computers or on mobile phones, creating surveys and quizzes using Google Forms, shared calendar using Google Calendar. So there are all benefits that we are using here at the Faculty of Media and Communication. And also, I like to mention that we also collaborate with Google. We had, for a lot of years, a class called Google Academy, which users had the opportunity to have, got Google certificate for AdWords and things like that, because, as I said, we had a digital marketing department. So we are collaborating with Google a lot in a lot of fields. And I'd like to thank you for attention, and that's all for me. And I hope that you like it, and that you how we share our experiences here at the Faculty of Media and Communication.
Yeah, thank you very much, Zvonko. That was kind of interesting, especially the chart where you can see like users are going up. I have a question. How did you face this this scenario where you had to did you have to convince the users to start using Google, or was that just propagated by word of mouth, or how did this increment happen?
Well, I think that I wasn't here in 2009, but I talked to my colleagues that work in that time, and they said that before using Google Apps, it was a little bit of chaos, because you have to make your own mail server or other services. So when we started with Google, first we had I think in the beginning, before we using Moodle learning management system, I think we're making blogs on Google Sites and everything. So it was difficult in the beginning, but people realizes that it will be very useful for them. So we had a lot of younger professors, younger people who works in administrations, and as I said, it's easier for them, of course, to accept all of that. But even as I said, older generation who are not born in this age of computers, mobile phones, and all of this communication, they also realizes that their job is much easier when they're using Google applications. There was a lot of job when we implementing Google Meet because they didn't use professors like their live contact with the students, of course. But in that kind of situations, we need to adjust to that situation, and with our manuals, with our support, now I think they couldn't live with Google Meet because it has a lot of features. It was a much different application that we using in March 2020 than in September. In October, it has option, because in the beginning it was why we didn't use some other tools or things, but after breakout rooms, for example, and things like that. But when Google implemented that in September, I think there were no doubts, any doubts that Google Meet is essential and that Google using it a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex.
Yeah, so that was, I think it was really interesting also to see the statistics, Zvonko. So thank you for pointing that out. I also made a screenshot, maybe to show internally and to our customers. So that was really interesting. And I'm not sure.
It was like for 12 times we had 12 times higher number of users, from 500 to almost 6,000. So
wow. And what was the period again? So that was from 500.
12 years. 12 years.
12 years. Okay, so it took quite a while, but eventually.
Quite a while, but quite a while. But as I said, it was interesting to look how on other faculties in my country, because as I said, the University of Belgrade is the biggest university here in Serbia, and it was a totally different situation than us, because they didn't own. Some faculties only got their email accounts when COVID-19 began, so in 2020, and others who had emails and things like that, they didn't have live online classes. They only sent like PDF files, PowerPoint presentations. They didn't have live contact, and I think you couldn't have good education without student could ask professor, "Oh, I didn't understand. I don't understand this. Can you explain me?" And you couldn't do that by I send you email, you send me email. You had to have live interaction, and from the beginning of IT department on the Faculty of Media Communications, they were pushing it to put the newest IT solutions that we needed, of course. And I think that our work paid off, and because of that, we were the fastest with, of course, the electrotechnical faculty, which is, of course, the main for IT solutions here. But that's their job, and they're learning students that we are not in the technical field. So it's very interesting that we are not in the technical field because we have psychology, communications, on digital marketing is like there. We implementing that IT solutions that in higher education, and we were better than them, which has more resources. So I think that we using our resources more carefully, more wisely, and because of that, we were more likely to adapt to that situation. In only a few days, for example, on March 12th, we realized that we were going online in 3 days. In 3 days, we were totally on Google Meet, making a lot of manuals. But in first few weeks, we needed to support almost every single Google Meet. But that hard work paid off, and now every professor works by their own, and they're totally using all of advanced, not only Google Meet, but all interaction, Google Meet, Google Drive, Google Forms, all Google tools that we could use in higher education.
So could you say that the entire university is online, or would you say there's still
our faculty, because University has dozens of faculties, and we're like autonomous. We are a part of the University, but we're autonomous. We are in different buildings, so our IT is totally separated, and our network is separated from them. But also University also implemented all of these IT solutions, so they also have live classes and everything. Because of that, we had a lot of students, because good voice goes very far. So we at this moment we had almost 600 new students enrollment. So it's very good for it's excellent, and we couldn't enroll all students because we had some criteria, but we will have even more requirements that people call us, but we said we couldn't have any more students. So because students, every year we had evaluation of our work, and in every evaluation of professors, departments, especially IT department, they say that a good implementation of Google Meet and other Google tools help them to go to all this COVID-19 crisis, and students feel like they are on the faculty, because it's like easier that you can talk to 50, 100 other users with professors than only to read the PDF file and then to send professor a mail, oh, I don't understand this. So I think it was quintessential for us that we could use all these tools and to make it through this. And also now we're going to in this new year from some hybrid model that we have one part of the students here, part of the students will be looking for live streaming from Google Meet. So it will be a different challenge, an interesting challenge for us.
Cool. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I think I found it really interesting, also for preparing the slides with the facts. That's really kind of you. And yeah, and we really want to thank you on behalf of digital schooling and Google, and point to our next speaker, Carsten.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Zvonko. Yeah, I will just move over. Yeah. So yeah, here I will just bring in Carel. Carel is from Düsseldorf, Heinrich-Heine-University. So we are switching here now from Serbia to Germany, and you can see we had Zvonko here number 1, and then Carel is coming up. Next would be Christian and Ahmed. Also, we are changing from Google Workspace to GCP. So yeah, let's hear Carel what you have to.
Yeah, just like as a little background. So Carel is a research is a doctoral candidate and research scientist for artificial intelligent dialogue systems at Heinrich-Heine-Universität of Düsseldorf, and it's a pleasure to have him here today, and he will speak about his project and using Google Cloud.
Yeah, thanks a lot for
go ahead, Carel.
the introduction. So today I thought I'll just speak a bit about what research we do and especially focus on some works that we've done that mainly relied on cloud computing in the work, and also how we use cloud compute to achieve or do well in our research. So I guess as a start, I thought I'll just tell you a bit about what dialogue systems are before we talk anything more about dialogue systems and using cloud computing for them. So a dialogue system is basically computer software or computer system that enables human-computer interaction, and the primary input to these systems is natural language. And this natural language can either be in the form of speech, like with spoken systems, or in the form of text. So a popular example that everyone might know of a dialogue system is the Google Assistant, which is one of the popular personal assistants. And these assistants are often used in our homes or on many of our mobile devices. And these assistants often consist of various types of dialogue systems. I have three that I'm just going to shortly mention here. So one of them, I think, which we all have played with before, is like a chat type dialogue system. These are just social chit chat when you just want to have fun with the system or make some jokes, etc. Then task-oriented systems, which is what we focus more on, which is dialogue systems which aim to assist the user in achieving some goals. So this is like booking a restaurant or finding flights or finding some information. And this is what task-oriented is. And then the last one that I'll mention here is tutorial type dialogues, where the dialogue system actually aims to also assist in teaching the user a new skill or some skills that they can learn from the system. So to move on, I thought I'll just give an introduction of the type of dialogue systems that I work on and that we work on in our group. So we work specifically on what we call modular task-oriented systems. And the idea of this is that a dialogue system consists of various types of models, mostly deep learning models, that each have a role to play. And in this diagram, I'm just looking at a text type example, and I've just added some examples an example to show how this works. So if we, for example, had the user having some input, asking for a hotel for 4, this text input would go into the first part of the system, which is also the part that I mainly work in, and this is language understanding and context tracking. And the goal of this part is to extract what the user wants from the system, and we name it context tracking as well, because it's important to extract this in the right context of the dialogue. So if the user mentioned more information, or later in the dialogue changed their mind and said, no, make it for 5, it's important to know that earlier the user also mentioned that it's a hotel for 4 people, and that's essential for successfully later producing the correct information. And basically this module then produces a summary of the information that the user has provided, which we call a state. So for example, like here we have a hotel price is cheap and hotel for 4 people. And this information is used by what we call a policy, which is basically a decision-making model on what to do next, or what to say to the user, or what, etc. So in this situation, for example, the policy could decide that we don't quite have enough information to recommend a hotel to the user next. So maybe we'll just ask the user if they need parking when they'll be at this hotel. So this is this form of action that the system will take. And obviously, if we sent this to the user, it wouldn't look very nice. So further on, this type of action is then converted back into natural language through a generation model. to some text asking the user whether they want parking. And to form this into a speech-based system, you could easily attach some speech recognition or speech synthesis modules, and this could then easily form a full system to which you can speak to using speech. So now that you have kind of an idea of what the dialogue systems look like that we work on, I'm going to move on to a project that I worked on recently, which I used Google Cloud Compute for, and the results of this project, and also I'll describe a bit about what we achieve and why Google Cloud Compute is such an integral part in our group. So what I currently work on and worked on for about the last year and a half is uncertainty in dialogue systems. And this addresses specifically the issue that in many dialogue systems or personal assistants, the user kind of needs to adapt to what the system can do. And the user needs to learn what limitations the system has. And whilst many systems solve this through using some rules, it's not the best solution because you can't have rules for every single situation that we're in. And for this reason, we're looking at systems that can know what its own limitations are and act appropriately when it knows that it's facing some limitations. So we say that a system that accurately incorporates uncertainty is a system that knows its limitations. So basically, the system knows when it's uncertain, and then you're often uncertain when you're reaching your limitations and things that you don't know about. So just an example to show you when this could happen. For example, if the user made this utterance and said, I want a nice restaurant, it shouldn't be too expensive. And for the example, we're assuming that our language understanding model is struggling to understand what shouldn't be too expensive means. Does it mean the user wants a very cheap place, or does it just mean like a mid-class place, or not just sort of on the bottom edge of expensive and not super expensive places? So if a system had no uncertainty and it just said, well, I think this user wants a very cheap restaurant, and it decides, let's just make a recommendation, and it recommends, for example, the Curry King, which is a cheap place. And this could be a bit disappointing to the user if they didn't want a very cheap sort of takeaway street side restaurant. Whereas a system which had uncertainty and maybe could realize that, well, I'm actually a bit unsure about the user, what the user said here, and the user might want something in the middle class or moderate price range, or they might want something cheap. So let's just ask the user to confirm this. And for example, a system which incorporates uncertainty could rather say something like, I have a few nice places. Would you like the restaurant to be moderately priced or cheap? And this would create a better user experience, because the user could then say explicitly whether they want the cheaper option or whether they really do want the moderately priced option, and you can make a much better restaurant recommendation based on this. So what we've achieved in this work is basically we've developed language understanding and context tracking models which can accurately predict uncertainty, making them reliable, which means that these models know when their predictions, when they know what the user wants, but they also know when to be uncertain about what the user is saying. And this is what we did with the language understanding. And we've also shown that, as in the example above, that systems that incorporate uncertainty in their processing are generally both more successful and more efficient when talking to users. And we've also confirmed this in what we call a human evaluation. And if you're interested in this work, it will also appear at EMNLP later this year. So just a short bit on what we do with the human evaluation. How we train most of these systems is in simulated environments. So you have some simulation of users of the system, and we train and evaluate on those. But mostly those simulations can't really tell us, like, doesn't necessarily mean that a successful system on the simulation is successful with humans. And another thing that we do then is to evaluate these systems through interaction with humans, to find out which system humans find better. And in our experiments as well, like I mentioned, both in the simulator and with humans, they found that our systems with uncertainty performed better. So what are the computational needs for us to be able to do such a project or to develop such a system? Well, firstly, state-of-the-art language understanding models mostly rely on large transformer architecture models to understand what the user said in their text. For example, a model like Roberta. And to train models like these, or to even fine-tune them, you need specialized hardware such as GPUs, or for training even TPUs. And things like TPUs we can only access through services like Google Cloud Compute. And in our recent work with uncertainty, we used an approach which is called ensemble distillation. And in this approach, it's also necessary to train a large amount of models for each experiment that you do. So at each point, at each at each setting that you want to test, you basically train a relatively large amount of models that forms up an ensemble, and then afterwards you recombine these models into a single model. And all of this uses a large amount of computational resources, which for this project we all use the Google Cloud Compute platform for. So how does our group use Google Cloud Compute? Well, Google Cloud Compute in our group enables the students, including me, to experiment with new architectures. And these architectures could be large transformer type models, and often models which we could not train using even some of the local compute that we have. And this really allows us to look at language understanding and language generation type models, which you cannot compete with if you don't have the compute resources to develop and to train these type of models. And so really these type of models, our research really relies on having the compute resources which we get from Google Cloud Compute. Further, it allows us to perform thorough and reliable analysis of our methods by running a large amount of experiments in parallel. So often you need to test various parts of your model, and you need to test new things that you do, and sometimes you do various new things, and you need to make sure that each one of them actually contribute to the success of your system. And this means that often we need to do a large amount of experiments, testing different types of the model. And this, again, if we want to do this in reasonable time periods to meet deadlines, etc., we need just large amounts of parallel experiments, which we can easily run on the Google Cloud platform. And so in general, it allows us to work to produce good research, good novel research, good state-of-the-art dialogue system research in our group. It's also been really useful for us during the pandemic time, where we've produced a relative number of papers, all relying on the Google Cloud platform. So this is not the only work that we've produced, but my colleagues have also produced quite a few other interesting works, which we hope to have a good impact with. So I think that is about it from my side. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carel. It was quite interesting. Yeah, Alex, do you have a question?
No, I personally read about the dialogue systems and transformer models, and I don't understand a lot, but what I understand is it is very let's just say it is a paradigm shift in terms of technology, what is possible. What have you experienced in terms of when you tested these models, where people are surprised how realistic and good they are? Like what were the reactions of the tests you did? I read that you on the slides you had a few tests of the like scenarios.
Yeah, so I think in general, these systems are really successful, and the users give us really good feedback about how good these systems perform. And just from personal experience, if you look at the predictions that's made by these transformer type models compared to like older recurrent neural network type systems, they really have very good performance. And on the generation side as well, it's really impressive what sort of, or how natural sounding the language is that these systems produce. There's many systems that you can play around with yourself, like GPT, for example. And I think you'll be really surprised if you look at what sort of text these things can generate. It looks very, very human-like, the text that they generate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. If are there any questions from the chat to Carel for this research project, or general how they introduce cloud? I'm looking at the chat now, so there's no questions. You're still able. We have still a couple of minutes before Christian starts speaking, so you can still ask your questions. One other question that probably is one that some people that maybe are not into every topic of cloud that will be presented today is, how is the onboarding if you are going from zero cloud to working with cloud? What is your experience with onboarding your research group to using cloud? Without going into much detail, I mean, we have a couple of minutes left, but what can you tell the viewers, like if they want to say, well, I have not really done any experiment on the cloud, what can we do? Something around, like what can you recommend?
I mean, so for researchers that want to try it out, there's some free credits that you can test it out with. And I think for onboarding with the group, it was really a very quick process. I think we spoke to Alex and his team, and it wasn't more than, I think the longest period was just getting university administration to approve things. But from the rest of the point, I think it was really quick and easy. And for us, it was lucky that we managed our group, that we started this process a few months before COVID struck, and we managed to finish the onboarding process really quickly and efficiently, and managed to then, as a group, all work and utilize cloud compute really extensively during this COVID period.
Mm-hmm. And
yeah, this is also exactly our experience, where it's usually the bureaucracy that slows down things, but yes. the researchers know exactly what they are doing, and they are just asking me that when can we start? Yeah. So thank you very much for the insight. Alex, I interrupted you. Was there another question?
It's fine. I think the question has already been answered. So I just want to thank you. I think it's a very interesting case. I wish you best of luck. I will also follow your research. I know we're in contact for different also stories you will share with us in the future. So I think it's very, very interesting field where we will hear more about this year and next year. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your journey today.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Carel.
Great.
then,
Yes. Yeah. Let's
Christian will be up
start. We have, we heard from Zvonko, we have from Carel. Now Christian Rebernik is next, CEO and co-founder of Tomorrow's Education based in Berlin. I think you have some more details on Christian, or he just can present himself.
Yes. Christian is CEO and co-founder of the EdTech, Tomorrow's Education. It is brand new. And Christian is known for his, let's just say, affinity towards founding companies and and supporting companies as well. And we're really, really glad to have him here. And please introduce yourself and shoot ahead.
Alex, Carsten, so great to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. Hi, everybody. Really pleased to share a couple of our insights, of our learnings, and of our journey. Literally, my background, I'm the new kid on the block. I'm new to education, and I'm learning myself a lot. Continuously, not just now, but I think also for my whole life so far. What I would like to talk about today is the art of student-centric design. At the end of the day, I think everything is about actually the learner, the person who we are helping to grow. So he is at the center of our thoughts, and the question is just how can we help him the most, educate him the best, empower him in the best way possible. And I would like to share our approach to that kind of problem from this perspective. Really quickly about myself, Alex mentioned it. I had the opportunity to work, for example, in a bank where I was at N26, helping to get a banking license for the core banking system. I worked also for the United Nations World Food Program, helping to create Share the Meal, which is a donation platform which is global available. I can recommend you to visit it. And also the last project I was working on was creating a company which was called Vivi, a digital health record for Germany, together with 37 health insurance companies. And I'm really pleased to now get into education, as I have 3 kids. And I noticed how they struggle actually to learn often. And this is the reason what brought us to where we are today. So really quickly about Tomorrow's Education. At Tomorrow's Education, we want to empower and educate the creators of a better tomorrow. In essence, what we currently have is a professional master program developed jointly with the Vienna University of Business and Economics in sustainability, entrepreneurship, and technology. It's a 1-year program for students, which is part-time. It's 100% actually online. And it's accredited also in Europe and in the US. And we have students studying with us since April. So literally we are very new from that kind of perspective and are learning and growing ourselves. Let's talk a little bit about the problem we actually started with. This is a little bit how I started learning. And this is quite some time now ago, to be honest. And when I was sitting at one of those pupils somewhere in the back, listening to one person talking in front, trying to take notes, trying to capture it. Unfortunately, when I was studying, I wasn't very engaged. I thought about, why do I learn this actually? Is this so relevant for me? I didn't understand and connect this, how this will help me to build actually my personal future. And I was dropping out of university because it didn't motivate me. And if you compare this kind of setting, there's a lot of research about why eventually lectures, like traditional lectures, are not working. And often what I have the feeling, especially now with my kids, for example, is that if you think about putting that into a digital world, feels a little bit like this picture here. I'm not sure how many of you know this picture, but it's actually a very old television. When I grew up, I had 2 channels. There was no way to actually jump forward or backward or switch beside from one channel to the other one. And you had to watch what was there. Not much options, not much flexibility, not much freedom of choice, actually. And I think just putting a system which we have today and making it now available as a streaming session is not how digitalization from that perspective should be considered, but digitalization or technology actually empowers you to rethink how to interact with learners, how to help learners better. So putting you an example here, which I like a lot, as mentioned, because also I have kids, yeah. What does this child need, yeah? Please feel free to comment, yeah. I would love to actually see your comments about this, yeah. What does a children like this here, where you see there's a book, you see that there's a child who's reaching out to the book. What does he want? What does he need? And the typical answers would be, for example, he grabs the book, or eventually he wants to push the book into the shelf. Eventually he wants to reach out to the book above. The thing is, and that's the important part, is we actually don't know really what he currently wants. And what, as a father, what I would do typically is I would grab the book and then put it into the hands of the child. And then the child would typically go on the floor, cry and shout at me and, hey, you just hijacked me actually reaching out for myself to the book, which I actually wanted, for example, to be. But the important fact is we don't know. And this is something which is driving us a lot, because we are actually wondering what's the best way to help learners. Yeah? And how can you design actually for the learners a program and help them to reach their goals. Yeah? And I love this quote from Albert Einstein. If I had 1 hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about the solution, which I think, especially in learning, where we help our students, is not happening often enough, actually, in this kind of case. So, sorry. The key here is really to build empathy for the learner to understand their jobs to be done. Yeah? What are they want to do? What are they struggling actually eventually with? Yeah, it's not enough just saying, hey, here is knowledge, here is the lecture. Take it, do whatever you want with it, or don't do it, or here's an exam, do the exam. This is not what we want actually for the learners. We want them to grow. We want them to build their competencies for which are relevant to them. We want to help them eventually by empowering them through, for example, connecting them to the right people who can help them again. So this is all what we are about, and what we have built so far is what we call also with Tomorrow's University education. So university designed literally for the learner, and we believe from the talks we have had that for many of today's students, really flexibility and having actually a modern learning environment is really key, so that they can learn wherever they are, whenever they want, and also at your pace, at their pace, what they want. What we also learned in many of our discussions is that learning for many is not a single isolated thing. I'm learning myself, but it's a social thing, a social experience. So that we believe in cohort-based learning, and you need to learn on relevant things. The most I have learned myself is when I actually started, for example, creating a bank. I didn't know much about how to do that, but I had a challenge, and based on this challenge, you can actually research or connect and learn what it takes to solve that challenge. And for sure, the challenges need to be in line with your capabilities, your basic capabilities. But this is what we believe is really key. So we are building a challenge-based learning system, and we are focusing really on the competences which are relevant today. What we believe especially is focused on the 21st century competencies, also developed by the World Economic Forum. We have adopted them, integrated, for example, also the core thing, sustainability, entrepreneurship, and technology, in line with our purpose. And the fourth thing, which we believe is really key, is that students know or have a why. Why are they actually learning? What's their purpose? and that they build up on their way the credibility they need to actually achieve this kind of purpose. So this is about tomorrow's education. And you see on the right-hand side already a little bit a picture of that we developed, of the platform we have developed, which is a mobile-first design platform. So talking about these learners, today's learners, they are literally, if you have kids, you know that they are all over the places. They are mobile, they're using their smartphone very fast. We have one student as an example who is literally using the whole program on her smartphone, doing everything from connecting, reading, to actually, if you go and create a presentation, she would want to do it on her mobile, or she's actually doing it on her mobile. And you see this here also on the screen here, the young people, they're also very connecting. While there is, for example, here a discussion, actually they are involved, they're researching, they're looking things up. It's different patterns actually of learning. So the typical thing is, if you think about, now we have this problem and we want to build actually the solution, what you do is, hey, I have this idea, then you need to create a business case, create a roadmap, requirements, design, then build it, then test it, then release it. And only at the end, typically, you know if it really works or fails. And this is not how you typically can really build product. It's very expensive and high risk to build it that way. And this is the reason why I believe that the best approach actually is to think about what is the objective you want to achieve with your learners, very specific, and how can you actually figure out how to solve that kind of specific problems and do it in a very iterative way, so that you always try to look for something which is actually desirable for the student, which works for him, which is viable from a business perspective, but also feasible from a technology perspective. And that's what you are trying to look for to make this actually happening. And I would like to share one sidestep story, which has not to do directly with education, but nonetheless, I think it's quite interesting when it comes to actually building something student-centric. And I'm not sure if you know this screen and this company actually here, Papaya. Papaya was a company back in 2013 and 14, which I was lucky enough to mentor and help them to reflect on what they are building. And their idea was very simple. They wanted to create a credit card for teenagers so that teenagers finally can learn how to deal with digital money. And they created an app for parents to actually put money on the card. They could also block the card if it was lost. They could enable certain things like cash withdrawals or categories. And out of this, they actually created the product, and then they asked their investors, which back then have been all people actually who have had children at the teenager age, to test it. And they did test it with the teenagers and the investors. Then again, for 4 weeks' time, asked them afterwards, how was it? How did you like actually the experience? And the parents told them, yeah, it's really amazing. We love it. And then we asked them, but how about the kids? How do they like it? Oh, no, I didn't give it to the kids. I used it for myself. So what that showed was really interesting, because it showed that the parents actually really appreciate control and transparency of that system, of having an app to actually control a credit card and being notified once there is a transaction happening. And out of this came N26, the bank, which today is a success story in itself, literally, which was just initiated based on understanding the user's needs. So in this kind of sense, sometimes when you innovate, you make mistakes. It's best to admit them quickly and get on with improving your other innovations. So N26, Papaya literally was, from that perspective, then stopped. And they continued back then as number 26, and to later become N26 today from this kind of journey. And this is something which is very important, I think, also in education, to always continuously assess what works, what doesn't, and move on to focus on the right innovations. So what do we have built from that perspective to show this? is that we have developed a mobile first experience where you, as a student, can explore the curriculum, walk through lessons, bite-sized lessons, so which are very interactive, where you learn something, where you actually always are quizzed about it, but then also have the achievement and the accomplishment feeling of actually making progress, and where you actually learn together in teams with others. If you work on the challenges where you're grouped up, for example, and then trying to solve the challenge together as a team. Yeah. So how does this work? And our campus is not built just of bricks and mortars, but actually of connected experiences. On the one hand side, we are using currently Slack as a community tool where our students can interact with. Yeah. Then on the other hand side, we are using Google Workplace as the suite for actually the collaboration from documents to actually video conferencing. And this is something we put together actually with the app experience fully integrated. Yeah, so that it's not like, hey, there are the three worlds, but it's actually one world for the student, built around him, empowering him to achieve his goals. So giving you a little bit more insights here, how does it look like? Here you see, for example, one challenge here, and in the challenge you see here, let me choose again, here's a challenge folder. Every time you start a challenge, for example, there is a challenge folder initiated for everybody to collaborate on, which is automatically done in Google Workspace, so that you see in Google Workspace all of a sudden, I have here a new folder, there's all my documents for the challenge. Yeah, this helps so that we actually have also the permission settings done in Google Workspace. This is also done for review. If once we are coming to grading or a reviewing process, it's automatically use this folder, which is submitted for the grading or for review processes, etc., and easily structured for all our students, harmonized way, so that they can collaborate there. And they can collaborate. I mentioned it, one person from us, a student, for example, she's learning from Costa Rica. And she's really unique because she's really working only on her smartphone. Not everybody, most of the people actually use a lot of desktop, but she's actually creating presentations like this on her smartphone. She's way faster than me on that. I wouldn't be able to do that. But with Google Slides, she can do it. And she's using Google Document to create the document necessary. She's recording videos or pictures, and everything is stored and put into that kind of local folder for the other students to collaborate with her very effectively. And this is really working amazingly easy, but also reliable. And we have very different students from all over the world now, and we haven't had a single issue with anybody of them with accessibility problems, with reliability problems, or that was too complicated for them to get started. But everything is actually really just getting into it, starting the collaboration, work together on it. It's all integrated with the permissions you want to have from that perspective. And using all the devices. So coming also to an end, yeah, but just some quick questions. Is this actually working overall? Which is, I think, a very good question. And we was wondering this ourselves. And just to give you some public now posts from our students, which, for example, here Max, who posted about it, was also wondering, because he signed up as a student, does it actually work? And yes, it's possible. He was really happy to learn in this kind of way, where you have the app as a center, fully integrated, and giving you a very seamless experience, very enabling you to save a lot of other hustle and putting you into the place where you, wherever you want, whenever you want, actually can actually learn, progress, collaborate from this kind of timing. And here's another one which I like to see also, that our students are really outdoors and moving around a lot. And for example, part of our curriculum is that actually you talk about your own mission, why are you studying, what do you want to achieving, and they are also writing about it and publicly. And this is great to see that it's not just an remote first, doesn't mean you are isolated or not engaging, but actually what we see is that we have a weekly active user rate of our students of 90%, which means that they're really active and they loved the experience. And here's another example from one of our students who wrote about take responsibility and empower yourself, where they really are really talking about working on real life challenges and learning the relevant competence for them and advances them personally. And the last example I would like to bring up is here from Christoph, who is not our student to say this, but he's talking about actually if I'm looking at actually how to evaluate people, he's writing here, there have been times when I judged the person by his/her CV. Today at Better Ventures, we make investment decisions. We are looking especially on the potential people who have the potential people have and their ideas. How likely are they to grow? Do they have a growth mindset? Which is exactly what we are trying to focus on. So with this said, I'm available for questions here, coming to an end. Tomorrow's education, we really try to re-envision how learning works and trying to design a university system for the students and want to empower them and educate them actually to become the creators of a better tomorrow. So with this said, thank you very much, Carsten and Alex, for allowing me to share this. Please feel free to comment, ask questions, or eventually also reach out to me.
Yeah, I have a question that really looked great. What you're just presenting. I wonder how much development power do you need to set up a system like that? I mean, Google Workspace is like working out of the box. You probably had to develop an app and then connect the two, but it's probably more to it than meets the eye.
So the Google system obviously is really easy. It's easy to integrate. All our users have, the first thing is as a single sign-on, we use the Google identity, so that every student is actually registered, which allows us to manage permissions, manage when the onboarding and the offboarding as well. And they have at the beginning actually everything they need to be productive and effective. And for them, it's just for us to integrate it into the app. And this is also from the process perspective. You don't need, it's actually not an effort. It's just setting this up, testing it, and you can do it, I think, personally with one person. Obviously, we have a larger team for the whole app development and the integration, but the integration part is I think, the really easy part to make actually happen.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Also from my side, Christian, was really interesting. I'm also following basically the development of all the, let's just say, the experiences that we have in the past that are now going mobile. For example, the banking experience going mobile, and now for me this is studying going mobile. And I really like the word student-centric design, because I think right now the design is nowhere. It's just like a system-centric design. It's around the system itself. It doesn't have the student in the focus, at least not for the most majority of universities. And one of the questions I have in that sense is what do you emphasize with student-centric design? What is the purpose behind it, and what is the future outlook? Because I really think it's a really nice concept, and it's a lot where you can have a lot of things going, let's just say, improve in the future.
So we have a lot of things. So all our students are actually part of our whole development process, literally. So we have a retrospective with them, asking what they like, what they don't like, and improve from their perspective as well. So, for example, what they're struggling with, the challenges in itself, and eventually you know it from yourself. If you have a large challenge, a large project, you need to get done, you push it away, because it's actually a big thing, and you need actually time, and let's do it eventually next week, and then a deadline comes and you feel totally overwhelmed. It stresses you out, and I think this is an issue. And you as a university, you could say it's his problem. They need to learn how to build this up and structure it themselves. And eventually they fail. It's their problem. Then they fail, and then they need to go again. But the question is why? Can you help them actually? Can you help them to learn? Can you help them to learn, structure it? Can you help them to break it down eventually early on? And this is the discussions we are having with our students. How can we actually empower them actually to advance easily, and eventually not at the beginning already give them the largest challenge, but actually help them to structure it. And this is how we also develop the app further. Yeah, and this is where we love certain also that the combination of actually Google Workspace, which is I think very perfectly working smooth tool, but can on top curate the students' experience with actually empowering them to use it in the most meaningful way without leaving them just, hey, do it yourself and figure it out.
Mm-hmm. And there's one question that's building on what you just said, and it's interestingly connecting with our previous conversation with previous presentation from Carel. So he is working on dialogue systems and basically automating dialogue flows, where he says almost human or superhuman interactions with neural networks. And most of the markets are not even at the mobile experience. But if you think there's a lot of drive also at our company, where you have go from mobile, then the next step to AI experience. Have you already thought about a projection in the future to include such systems and enhance the experience?
Yes, we call it also remote first, because we say it shouldn't be mobile only. And I think this is so important that our students can learn on their computer. They can learn eventually on their mobile. There will be future new devices they will use from a voice assistant or other devices as an input or interaction channel. And I think it's very important that it's not that we don't build a system and they need to come to us, but we need to cater them what's the best interface for them from this perspective. And I think what's also important is I don't think as a university you cannot build everything yourself, but it's actually about connecting the dots, bringing them together. So I think it's very important actually from this perspective to look at that, and how can you leverage artificial intelligence, for example, to empower the students, to make it even to make them more effective. Yeah, I mean, I think we heard of Neuralink and the vision of Elon Musk and how he wants to drive this by actually connecting the brain to information, which eventually is a little bit further down the road. I have also some ethical questions there, but nonetheless, I think the question is, how can you empower the students? What kind of tools can you give them? What kind of structure can you give them to help them grow and master that? This kind of, or take the next step every time and keep them engaged. Yeah, I think it's nothing. It's very important, especially in remote environment, that they know how to lead themselves and also stay engaged in the system, because otherwise you cannot, give them a kick and say, hey, come on, do something. It's not possible in that kind of way, but you need to have this kind of relation, and this is very important. I think you need to have a relation actually to be able to remind them, to interact them, to show them that there's something valuable in with the next step for them.
Mm-hmm. So, one of my last questions, and I think it's a personal one, but some people might identify. There's a nice TED talk about procrastination, and I'm a big procrastination, and there's this panic monster coming up in frequently before deadlines. It's also in the TED talk, and some of you may know it. And the larger platforms, the massive open online courses, they suffer also from these motivational problems. Is that also something that has been like going through your mind? Like, how can you keep students learning with a more like remote experience? Because I'm one of these procrastinators, and I really like, for example, gamification and things like that. And what are your thoughts about this direction?
It's procrastination. It's also ADHD. There are a lot of issues, and I think this is where you can argue it's harder, but eventually it's easier to use technology to give you that kind of focus and allow you. And you see this if you play a game, yeah, you're really in it, yeah. It really can keep you going, and eventually you can actually stay in hours. So I think it's a lot. How can we help? And what we're trying to do is two things at the beginning of our curriculum. Is really that we help our students to identify their why they are actually joining us, why are they learning, and really go a little bit deeper on that, yeah, to make them to give them the relevance in the first place. Because if you don't know why this matters for yourself, then you will not do it. The second thing is what we started earlier on is this kind of how do you learn? How actually do you set up? What are the habits you need to establish actually for yourself to actually make this kind of progress? And it could be something like, hey, I have a 15-minute block just to have this kind of short session where I know that after, it's a good feeling every time. I have 15 minutes and I've done some progress here. Yeah? And we're trying them to help them actually set this kind of up for themselves. Yeah? And this is where we also try to give them rather early feedback. For example, the challenges from having this large challenge, and what is the first step actually to the challenge? For example, setting up a project which includes, for example, making interviews with people. Yeah, that we help them. First step is actually take this lesson, 15 minutes, to learn how to identify people for an interview. Yeah, and then do it. Yeah, this is something. It's a very smaller task than having a whole project. Yeah, and we're helping them to break it down, get started with small steps. And this allows everybody to make it more clear. And once you have mastered that, then you will be also, and have done this a couple of times in group challenges, you can take more steps yourselves. This is the important part because you have learned that already.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Christian. I will have, sorry, Alex, there is one question from Antonio from the chat. He says, do you think it will be a necessary change for educational institutes if they want to keep attracting students?
This is a very personal view, from this perspective. I think the world is turning around, and we have seen in the last 30 years really a massive shift on how the world works with technology and how we learn and how we connect. And I feel that it's underrepresented in our educational system because the educational system, from my perspective, and this is not true for every institute in higher education, because I think there are a couple of them have figured this one out, but many of them still do it the same way as 30 years ago from their system. There's a teacher who's coming and he's giving a lecture, sharing knowledge, and then the students do exams and simplify it, and that's it. Yeah, and I think this kind of pattern that was 30 years ago true isn't true anymore today, because as a student you can go online. You don't need to give you the teacher needs to give you that knowledge. You can go and research it, and eventually you're faster and you get more sources on doing that. So I think there's a shift actually necessary from higher education in general. And the question for me is just and I think there's a certain space. It will always be a lot of, I think, exclusive offline space, but we need to have additionally, I think, technology which enables us to learn more effective, more efficient. And it's not just by having the internet, because in the internet you have an information overflow. There is too much out there. Yeah. So this is I think the challenge to figure out.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. In general, that was really kind of interesting. We have Ahmed Elnaggar from Technische University waiting in line. Thank you, Christian. Very insightful.
We are going with your program and with your application. So you convinced us, and definitely some of the viewers today. So thanks for joining today.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, hi, Ahmed.
Hello.
So, we are switching now back from school to university and deep insight in COVID-19 research. And I was impressed when you told me what we can actually do better in the future due to your job at TUM University. But please go ahead and present yourself.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So I'm Ahmed Elnaggar. I'm a PhD candidate at Technische Universität of München, and I'm very glad today to share our research in COVID-19 under Google Cloud Computing platform. So I'm going to cover 3 different areas. First of all, our research in COVID-19, and the second part will be related to how we did use Google Computing cloud resources, and finally, I'm going to give some tips and tricks for new beginners or users, how they can utilize such powerful platform. So I think we can all agree that the COVID-19 is the main topic that everyone talk about in the last 2 years. But if you are currently listening to the presentation and you are healthy, you should actually be grateful, because unfortunately COVID-19 already caused approximately 4.6 million deaths. Unfortunately, even for people who already recovered, the latest research showed that there is approximately over 162 million people with lung symptoms, with fatigue, with fevers, as well as other symptoms. And we can even extend that to job loss. Approximately 114 persons already lost their job due to the fact of COVID-19. And if I just start to talk about side effect or the impact in different aspects like education and other, we will never end the list. And if I went back 2 years ago, when we have very strong signals that this could be a pandemic, we sat together in our one of our labs at the TUM, and we said how we can contribute. We have to stand and how we can contribute for fight this pandemic. And one of the things that we have found that we can do in order to help with COVID-19 research, that there is a big problem in research from bioinformatics. So COVID-19 is a virus, and virus is just a set protein sequence. And unfortunately, with every new sequence, it's very hard to predict, for example, what is the properties of COVID-19, or what is the structure of COVID-19, or how we can even find a drug for COVID-19. And this was the idea, how we can make a very good representation, or how we can extract a very good features for COVID-19, as well as prepare for the next pandemic. So if we just went 30 years ago, unfortunately, up to 1 year or 2 years ago, there is one single way to represent protein sequence, or the main way to represent protein sequence for any virus or bacteria. It's called MSA, multiple sequence alignment. And what it actually does, it tries to find a very simple sequences like the first and the third example here. And if there is only one change in one of the amino acids or one of the characters in the protein sequence, that they might belong to the same family. And if we have some kind of features for these family members, then we can say every single amino acid in this family have 1, 2, 3 features. Unfortunately, this doesn't work for new protein sequence. Like, for example, in the second example that I have here, since this is a single sequence which doesn't have any kind of related sequence in our database or our data set, then we are going to have really bad representation. And this is the case for COVID-19. One good thing that that already did happen in the last couple of years in natural language processing, there is a technique called language model, which we can do two things. If we have a sequence, we can remove one of the amino acids and try to predict this missing amino acid or this missing word, or we can have our sequence or part of sequence and we can try to predict what is the next token. Using this method in natural language processing, we can actually have a very good representation for words in natural language processing, and we have the idea why we don't implement the same idea in bioinformatics, in protein sequences, and then we can have a good representation for any kind of virus or bacteria we have currently or we might have in the future. And the good thing about this technique, which unfortunately was not used in bioinformatics before, that we don't need any kind of labeled data. So as you already know, unlabeled data is cheap, but labeled data is very expensive. So we had the idea and we said, okay, we need to start collecting data. And we started to search what kind of suitable data that we have in bioinformatics. And we said, okay, there are 3 data sets that we can use in order to find the best possible data set that we can use later for our language model. And we defined 3 data sets. The first one contains approximately 45 million samples or sequence. And the biggest one that we had approximately 2 billion samples. And when we measured how much storage do we need, for example, for the biggest data set here, we need approximately 22 terabytes of storage just to store the data set after pre-processing for our models. And then we said we need also to define what kind of models that could be suitable, and we mapped it from natural language processing to bioinformatics. And we defined 6 different models. And also we found out that these models, in order to consume all of this data, we have to scale it up. And we have to train models up to 11 billion parameter model, which is very huge models. So we have the idea, we have the data, we have the model, and the next step, we need to start training our models, or even to start have a prototype as a proof of concept. And this is what we have done next. We start to search for on-premises resources that we have, and unfortunately in TUM or any university, for every chair, we don't have like a huge supercomputer that is reserved to every chair. And here in München, at least, there is a big institute. It's called LRZ. and it has one of the top 100 fastest supercomputer in Earth. It's currently ranked 97th fastest computer on Earth. It's called SuperMOC, and they propose, okay, we can use this supercomputer, but unfortunately, we found out that this SuperMOC computer doesn't have any GPU computing power. And unfortunately, deep learning models require GPU computing power for training. And we have a discussion with them. Okay, they also had this DGX1 station. They have 8x NVIDIA GPU V100, but unfortunately, it's like a reservation system. We have to reserve DGX system maybe up to 1 day, and sometimes we have to wait maybe 1 week in order to get access for this 1 day, because this is shared across different institutes in Germany. So we said, okay, this might works. Let's just start testing our models and dataset in DGX1 system in LRZ, given that we can only reserve it for 1 day, and we might sometime wait 1 week to have access to DGX1. And we found out that we need to wait or train our models between 2 up to 25 years to finish a single model. This is just the required time for training a single model of the 6 models that we had. And it was a little bit shock for us. This means the idea that we had that might help in COVID-19 fight is not doable. It's nearly impossible if we started to use these resources. And we didn't just say, okay, we are going to shut down this research. We started to search what is the alternative solutions. And one of the good alternative solutions that we had is Google Cloud Platform. So we started a discussion. We already made a proposal for a Google Cloud Platform, which was accepted. And then we start to have a talk with people from Google Cloud Platform about solutions for our problems. The first solution that we had is the dataset itself. We had approximately 22 terabyte of data which we need to store. And we already found out in Google Platform that there's something called Google Bucket, which we can store virtually unlimited amount of data. So 22 terabytes of data, or maybe even much bigger amount of data, is not a problem in Google Bucket Platform. And the second problem that we had is two things: a huge amount of computing power that we need to train these models. The first part is data processing, or pre-processing. We need a lot of CPU computing power in order to convert our raw data into a machine learning ready dataset. And again, in Google Platform, there is a lot of a virtual machine you can set up with tons amount of CPU cores power as well as memory. You can just use them with, I don't know, in few minutes, you can just have your own supercomputer with easy access. And the second part is the tremendous amount of GPU or TPU computing power that we need to train our models. And we had two different approaches, either to reserve different machines, like form a cluster of GPU nodes in Google Cloud, but we had even a better idea, which is using Google TPU, which is cheaper, and we don't need to change a lot of, we don't need to make a lot of changes in the code in order to make it work. So this is the second problem and the solution. And the third one is model storage. We have also to regularly store our models with different checkpoints in case for some reason the model crashed, or for some reason the model didn't train correctly. So we can just restore a previous checkpoint. And again, we use Google Bucket for that. And the final one that we needed testing our models, because unfortunately our models need tremendous amount of computing power during training. However, it needs low computing power during inference or during adjusting for specific use cases. And we also needed to test that with different machines. And again, with Google Cloud Platform, we can customize different machines, and we can test our model there in order to make sure it's going to work in labs, because at the very end, different labs or institutes, they are going only to be interested using this method if it can fit in a very low computing machines with even one single GPU. So this is a solution that we have found out, and then we created a complete pipeline. So our pipeline, we can divide it into two steps. The first one is self-supervised learning. As we said before, we don't need any kind of labeled data, unlabeled data. So we store our corpus in Google Bucket, and then we created a TPU bot to train our models. And finally, we keep storing our trained model into Google Bucket. So this is the first step. The result of this step, we have a very good deep learning model, which can extract features or representation for any protein sequence, which represent any kind of virus or bacteria currently existing or might exist in the future. So this is the first step. And once we finished this first step, we went into the second one. We reserved a very small machine in Google Cloud in order to test this model. So again, the output of the first model or the first phase is just a general model. So it doesn't perform one specific task. It just can produce a very high quality representation for any kind of protein sequence or virus or bacteria. And then in the second step, we adjust this model for a specific purpose. Like, for example, we can, let's say we need to predict the structure of the virus or a bacteria. Then we test also this part in Google Cloud, but using very limited resources by reserving a virtual machine with maybe one or a few GPUs to test our method. And it went actually fine, this pipeline, but I need to share with you what is the resources that we have used in Google Cloud Platform. During our project, which has lasted approximately 1 year, more or less, we have used approximately 50 terabytes of storage. And by 50 terabytes of storage, I mean during each time instance. So for example, when we completed training a model, we just back up this data or the output model in our servers, and we also share it in on online deep learning libraries like Hugging Face, for example, and we remove this data from Google Bucket. So overall, we had approximately 50 terabytes of storage during our research. And for the TPU, we have used approximately, well, actually exactly 1024 TPU cores, version 3 from Google, which was very helpful to finish training of our models. And then we have used as an instance for a virtual machine at Google Cloud with 96 cores with approximately 1.4 terabyte of memory for data pre-processing. Because again, we need to pre-process all of this data and convert it to suitable machine learning dataset. And finally, we have used different virtual machine for specific fine-tuning or to use this pre-trained model for specific use cases, like, for example, structure prediction for virus or bacteria. And again, we reserve different machines with up to 8x NVIDIA V100 GPUs. But I think what is really interesting for you to know how much time it was needed previously, approximately we said 2 to 25 years, and how much we actually needed using Google Cloud Platform. So for data pre-processing or data processing, we needed approximately previously with our infrastructure, approximately 7.5 months. And we were able to down these numbers to only 2 days. So it's approximately 112x speed up using Google Cloud Platform. And for training the model itself, which was going to take 2 to 25 years, so this means we are going to have COVID even 25 until we finish our research. We were able to compress this time into 1 to 2 months for a single model. So from 25 years to only 2 months, which approximately 115x speed up. So Google Cloud Platform make things that was nearly impossible in science to possible. And we were able to finish our research using Google Cloud Platform. And I think also it might be interesting for you to share some results. It's really great that we were able to to compress the time, but what about the actual result at the very end? So I can share different parts of results. The first one is how we can extract protein sequence or how we can extract features for virus or bacteria. Previously, the methods that they have used for the last 30 years, the standard method using this kind of database search, we already created a new method using deep learning, which can extract features even if we have a single protein sequence. So even if we have COVID-20 or COVID-25 in the future, our model is going to be able to predict or extract very high quality features or representation for this virus or bacteria. And the second thing, it's not only about the quality of representation, but it's also about the speed. So we're able to, or our current models, it can provide up to 28 times faster or speed up compared to existing database search like approach. So this is a huge amount of speed up. And this can be done in a small lab with a single GPU, with even a very old GPU. It can work, and it can work much, much faster compared to this kind of database search. And finally, the accuracy, which matters at the very end. So we're able to get approximately up to 8% better accuracy for predicting different use cases. So we already tried some of the use cases in our lab, and we already have seen a lot of researchers started to adopt our approach or use our new approach for other use cases. For example, structure prediction for protein sequence, which is one of the important steps in order to have a drug as a very end, to find a suitable drug for virus, as well as other as well as other tasks that we have used in order to confirm that our generalized model is, as it's working faster, it can also work and provide better accuracy at the very end. So this is regarding the research, this is regarding the result that we have found out or were able to achieve using Google Cloud Platform. But I wish also to share with you our experience and how you can start using Google Cloud Platform. You can imagine this actually costed a lot of money, which we were happy that Google contributed in this research for providing us some TVU as well as credit to finish our research. But if you are new to Google Cloud Platform, why you need to pay if you can get something for free? So I think a lot of researchers will be happy about sharing that. So the first thing that I need to share with you is Google free tier. Unfortunately, a lot of people is not aware of this free tier, so you can get access to approximately 24 Google Cloud service for free. You can scan this code later on, and then you are going to redirect to Google site where you can sign up for free, and then you can have, like, for example, to create a virtual machine, a small virtual machine instance for free. You can use it. You can test whatsoever ideas that you have there. You can also reserve up to 5 GB of storage. You can have some kind of small testing, again, to have a prototype. And this is very important. If you validate your prototype, then you can assure that you can scale up things in Google Cloud Platform. And the second one that I need to share with you, there is a program in Google Cloud. It's called Google Cloud Research Credit. It can give you up to $5,000, again, for free. You just need to write a proposal for your research, and then in less than 1 month, they are going to reply you, hopefully with acceptance, if you wrote a good proposal. And then you can use this 5,000 credit in anything that you need to finish your research. And finally, this is something that not a lot of people is aware of. It's called TVU Research Cloud. And this program for researcher or independent, either in university institutes or independent researchers, and you can get up to 512 cores TVU bot up to 6 months to finish your research. So there's a lot of free stuff that Google actually give for researcher and support research and education, which a lot of people is not aware of. And maybe later on you can scan the QR code and check and apply for one of these, which might fit to your use case. So I definitely recommend this is the first step, that you go there, apply for this credit, test your idea, make a prototype, definitely make some mistakes and learn with this free credit. And second, I need to share with you some recommendation if you are going to work with deep learning on Google Cloud Platform. So the first recommendation, you are going to find out in Google Platform, they provide you different architectures or hardware architecture. You can reserve a CPU-based virtual machine or GPU virtual machine or TPU virtual machine. I totally recommend, if you are going to use a deep learning models or are going to train deep learning models, you have to go for TPU. Because in GPU, you have to create a distributed or cluster for yourself, and then you need definitely to adjust the code in order to make it work for this cluster. In TPU, the same code that works for a single 8-core TPU or a single TPU, it can work, or it should work with TPU bot, with 1,000 or 100 of TPU cores. And TPU cores, by the way, it's cheaper than GPU and it's faster than GPU. The second thing is machine learning library. All of the researchers that I'm aware of, usually in our university, use PyTorch because it's easy to debug. And however, in training in TPU, usually it's much better and faster to use TensorFlow. But I don't recommend both of these. I would recommend another library, which introduced by Google DeepMind team. It's called YAX and Flax. So both of these libraries support training in different architecture backend like TPU, GPU, or CPU. But it's very easy. It's like similar to PyTorch, but it can give you the best performance of TPU or GPU training. So I definitely recommend the third library. And next, unfortunately, in the last couple of years, Google only provided TPU. It's called, I would say, classical TPU, where you have access to your TPU machines, but you can only access it if you create also a virtual machine. So you can't access directly from your own laptop, for example, your own TPU bot. You have to create a virtual machine, and then this virtual machine can access the TPU as a TPU, which is additional cost for you. So you have to pay for this additional virtual machine, and also you have to make sure that it's connected correctly and it can run your training. And unfortunately, it was a little bit slower. But in the last few months, Google introduced something new. It's called TPU-VM, where it gives you direct access to the TPU machines. So you don't need to create this additional virtual machine. And now I definitely recommend the two options that still existing in Google Cloud reservation system, but I definitely recommend to create the second option is TPU-VM, because you don't need to create this virtual machine anymore, and you are going to have a better speed up during training. This is at least what I have observed. Another additional thing is that I would recommend, definitely you should be aware of that if you are training machine learning models, but I definitely recommend to create checkpoints regularly in case something did crash because of maybe there is bug in the code, or later on I'm going to talk about permittable TPUs, which you can reserve, which is much cheaper, but it dies every approximately 24 hours. So you have to make sure that you save or store the status of your machine learning model, and you can continue training after this TPU is dead. And finally, I would also recommend to check project location. For some reason, maybe because of data privacy, maybe you need to reserve a project or a TPU, for example, in Europe. But if you don't have this kind of constraints, I would recommend to check the prices or cost across different regions, because usually in the States you can get prices which is much cheaper compared to Europe or compared to, for example, Taiwan. So it's something I totally recommend also you to check it before you start creating your project. And the final thing that I'm going to share, how not to fail, because we already had a lot of difficulty at the start and we already failed because of some mistakes, and I need to share with you these mistakes so you can avoid it. So the first one that I need to share with you, this is a screenshot from one of our projects. And as you can see, everything was like almost static regarding the prices. So this is showing the different costs every day or the bills for every day across, for example, different services that we have used. But if you have seen in the last 2 days, there is a big hype or big jump. And if you didn't monitor your bill correctly, then you might find out at the very end there is a big cost which you are not aware of, because unfortunately you was not, let's say, smart enough to continue monitoring your costs. And we found out during this day, one of our researchers downloaded a lot of data from the bucket, and this was the cause for this big hype. And then we corrected that afterward, and we were able to fix this issue very early without having this issue later on with increase of bill. And the second one, it's even better than the first approach, is create alerts. So in Google Cloud Platform, you can, for example, create an alert which can tell you, hey, be careful, you already exceeded X amount of euro, and then maybe you need to stop your project, maybe you need to adjust something. So alerts is a very smart tool that you can use in Google Cloud Platform, so you don't, again, be shocked at the very end of your research. There is a lot of money that you need to pay because unfortunately you didn't take care or observe it, how much money you are consuming every single day. And last thing that I need to share with you is permittable TPUs. So there is two different, it's even for virtual machines, two different approaches that you can use, either on demand, which means you are going to reserve your machine as, for example, 1 month or 2 months, or even for 1 hour, and you are going to pay for this period. And the machine will always, 99.95%, will be always on. However, with permittable virtual machine or TPUs, you can pay fraction of this cost, but it's going to die every 24 hours. So up to every 24 hours, you can use your machine. However, it is going to be killed and you have to restart or create a new one. I definitely recommend to use this permittable approach during testing phase or during developing phase, or even afterwards. So many of our models, we already use this permittable approach, which we pay fraction of the cost, but you have to make sure that you regularly store the checkpoint, let's say every 1 hour or so you can make sure that you are going to resume or be able to resume your training afterward. And the final thing that I'm going to share with you, we were able to train, by the way, models up to 11 billion parameters, something similar to T5 existing models, and currently we're even training even bigger models. But with great power, usually you get some kind of greedy. And this is a mistake that I have did myself. So initially, when I had access to Google Cloud Platform, or even before that to another supercomputer, I can just run thousands of experiments at the same time, but I didn't care about the cost of this experiment. Or I can just train a huge amount of models tremendous amount of bigger models with just a click of buttons. But I don't recommend that. What I would recommend, have a prototype, start small, make sure your model is working correctly, make sure you are monitoring the costs, make sure that you are aware that everything is working correctly regarding your script, regarding your data, regarding your model, regarding your idea, and then only then you can scale it up to whatsoever model that you are interested in. And by that, I would like to thank you for listening for my use case in Google Cloud Platform for COVID-19 research. And if you are interested in our or reading more about our research, you can just scan this code, this QR code, and you can read more about our research. And thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ahmed. I will leave the code a little bit on so people can just take out their phones and take a photograph or just scan it. That was really, really interesting. In the middle, that was like, it almost sounded like a sales pitch. Thank you for that as well. Yes, there are actually a lot of free resources that universities can get, and there are even some. So I follow closely, especially that part that you haven't mentioned. So there's even more to that, but that will be something after this presentation, and just email me in private if you wish more information on that. So I have a question. We have seen a development, a vaccine development, which really was high speed to our standards that we are used to. We have developed vaccines in a very short period of time. What do you think your work would contribute to a future vaccine development?
Sure. I would shift it to something is even more interesting for drugs. So there is two different approaches. The first one is vaccine. So we can protect ourselves from a virus when or if it came to us. And the second one is to have a drug. So we can even have an early protection for the virus. And one of the things that I can share with you, which I'm pretty sure, and something that we have tested in our lab, as well as some of our partners, is having a drug. And in order to have a drug, the first step, you need to extract a very high quality representation for this virus. And the second step, you need to find the structure for this virus in 3D space. And the next step is something called docking. So you try different existing medical drugs which can dock or we can work for this virus. And if we can find a good representation, then we are going to have a good structure or a correct structure, and then we can have a good medicine at the very end for this virus. And this is something I'm pretty sure our prototype or our models can contribute in. And this is something I'm definitely sure when the next pandemic is going to come, we will be ready at least using this method.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I have a question as well. It was an excellent presentation, Ahmed. I was following every slide of your research, and one of the slides what I also took a picture of is the speed up slide, where you had from 7.5 months to 2 days, and then the other one was from 2 to 25 years to 1 or 2 months. I think this is really fascinating to see how you could advance science and research. And what are some of the, I mean, you mentioned some of the outcomes right now, but what are some of the things that you could recommend to researchers and the scientific community that could benefit from such an acceleration in science? I was just imagining if you would really be dependent to wait for such a long time, or maybe some people would just not follow the research. But what are the things that you think could be an outcome of this acceleration in science?
Sure. I would say there is different problems that we can't solve yet because, again, limited computing power that we have. And we have seen a lot of examples in the latest few years. For example, AlphaFold 2 from Google, another example, AlphaGo, which couldn't be done without this huge amount of advancement in computing and high-performance computing machines. So there is still, I would say, much more problems that needs still even more computing power. So I would say it's a balance between the current capabilities of software, of machine learning, the current capabilities of hardware, and the current capabilities of deep learning architecture that we have. And I think with COVID-19, we were able to come at the right time and right place. So perfect deep learning models, perfect architecture, as well as perfect high performance computing. And this applies to many problems that we currently have. But I'm definitely seeing there is even much more complicated problems that science yet need to solve. And I think with even advancement in computing power, definitely this is going to be solved. I would say in the next 5 years or the next 10 years, I'm seeing a lot of problems in science is going to be solved, mainly because we have advancement in computing. Even if we didn't have a lot of advancement in machine learning architectures and only in computing, definitely you are going to see a lot of problems going to be solved.
Okay, so one of the questions I also have is, and there's very different, let's just say, skills and knowledge about how to use cloud. For example, last Thursday, where we had our other event, I talked about the example of classifying different variants in cheese with AutoML, which is something probably everyone could do. What would you recommend to people who are not as deep into cloud computing and the research that you're doing to get started? What would you recommend to beginners how to start getting comfortable with cloud environments?
Sure. I would definitely recommend, first of all, to apply for this free credit. So again, if you made a mistake, you didn't pay for it at least. And the second thing that definitely read, there is a lot of tutorials provided by Google Cloud website, which unfortunately a lot of people is not aware of or doesn't take the time to read it. And you can find there a lot of tutorials for different problems, for image classification, for speech, for natural language processing. And they also provide like a complete code. You can just copy this code and run it in your machine. But this is for more experienced user. If you are still, for example, let's assume you are in science, but you are not aware of all of these machine learning models and how you can use it, Google Cloud Platform already providing different services which can do that for you without a single line of code. So as you already stated, this AutoML, for example, for image classifications or for speech or for natural language processing, you just need to create your data set. Then Google Cloud Platform already have the state-of-the-art models, which can be trained or can be fine-tuned for your own specific use case, and then you can get the result. So depend on what you are looking for or depend on your skills in deep learning, you can go from, as you already stated, AutoML or auto machine learning or already existing models in Google Cloud Platform up to developing your own and train your own.
Okay, so you would say credits and tutorials online. That would be
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I will just share here Alex and mine email address if somebody is interested in how to get the free stuff. I also do that like almost on a daily basis. Like how to get. We should do a webinar on how to get the free stuff, both for students, for faculty, for universities, for researchers. So there are so many different ways on how to use a lot of resources for free, or maybe just for a little money if you I'm grateful also that you shared the alerts and quotas. There are also quotas as well, so all these techniques that you use to limit your spending. We don't want them to spend too much and then say, oh my God, now I have to pay for that. So there are mechanisms to prevent that and just monitor your spending and see how that works. We are actually working on a tool that limits student spendings, which is a completely different story. So it's always the question, how can I limit my spendings? Usually that's not possible in Google Cloud because they don't want, it would result in loss of data, and we don't want that. So, but in general, we have a lot of tools for that and can answer that question. So Thea, thank you very much. We have a feedback in the chat. I posted the link there, so this is probably not clickable in here, but in the chat you can click that form. Just if you just fill it out and see, we would like to hear from you. It's completely anonymous. You don't have to tell us who you are. Just answer some questions. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you very much. We are spot on. Almost
Yeah,
12
just wanted to
o'clock.
point out that we have our next event on next Thursday, which is about the student success services. It includes also, and thank you, Ahmed, again, and speak to you later, which is next Thursday, and it's about how to transform the environment of your university with things like AI tutor, 24/7 virtual assistant, and a more personalized experience for students. And we will, meet again on YouTube stream, and you can sign up via the website that is shown here below, or you can just go and click the link that I just posted online and copy it. You will also, if you sign up, get a reminder for next week.
All right. See you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. See you. Thank you for joining today. Bye-bye.